Welcome to the Love Sessions. I'm Nori, and my beautiful co-host is Lily. Hi, Lily.
Hi, Nori. Hi,
Oh my
everyone.
goodness.
Wow.
The Love Sessions, what would it be? It's not a redo, a do-over, a restart, or what would it be?
Reboot. There's so
A
many. I know,
reboot.
right?
I like that.
Yeah,
From
we're
a
back.
from a higher operating system.
I know.
Yay.
I know it's been a little while or a minute, as they say
Mm.
nowadays, but yeah,
It's been a big minute. It's so good to be back. Wow.
it
Thank you.
is. It is. And
Yeah,
this is not not that it matters, but this is lucky number 13.
that's right.
So,
I like it. I'm
yeah.
glad we're starting at 13. That will be very memorable. And it's a new moon. Tonight's the new moon, right?
Yes, yes.
Hey.
So, good place to pick up where we sort of left off before.
Right, right. And the whole foundation of the love sessions, because there's many ways you could probably interpret that, is to bring love back to you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And in doing that, we just talk about, things that happen in everyday life and in relationships and, a lot of what happens in relationships because they're, pretty precarious at times. And
Hmm.
it's like things have sped up and there's so much going on the global scale. And, that trickles down into our personal lives. So sometimes we meet with stuff that doesn't feel so great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And bringing it back to you always. I love that because anything that has to do with love and relationships, we know is always related to our most important relationship, which is the one we have with ourselves.
Yes.
So it's always bringing it back to you.
Wow.
And I love that.
That's so good. But okay, so if you're navigating some uncomfortable stuff in a relationship and you're meeting with the contrast and the contrast feels so uncomfortable and so raw and so real, I don't know about you, but when I'm in the middle of all those feelings, I tend to forget the relationship with myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because
Absolutely.
when you're in well, I can't believe he said that to me. And we're all indignant because whatever happened, or how dare she have done that to me. When we're in that space, we're not in the self-love mode. Because if we were, we may have chosen to think something different, right?
Right. And sometimes part of loving ourselves or having that relationship with ourselves is really looking at that relationship with the other person or the other entity, whatever it might be. Maybe it's a job or a corporation or your best friend or whoever, looking at that relationship and trying to see like what's more important here? How important is this relationship to me?
Right, right. And sometimes the contrast, right, no matter what category it falls under of relationship, sometimes the contrast helps us sort out how important it really is to us because we could decide, oh my gosh, this is so painful, and I can't eat, and I really love that person, and I don't like this anymore, and I want it to be different. Or it could be, you know what? I don't even like that job anymore. I'm done. Right? So it can help the pain of it, the discomfort can help us sort out how important is it really.
Exactly. Exactly. And if it is important, then how do we navigate through that contrast? How do we get to the other side of it?
That's the tricky part.
Yeah, the messy part.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
go ahead.
how do you navigate through that? I mean, because okay, so the part that stands out to me is the part when we're not in self-love and we're in ego defense, of the injustices that we think were done to us. Because you have to get through that before you can really navigate. It's like you have to study the choppy waters before you figure out where to put your raft in.
Wow, that's such a cool vision of. I lost my train of thought here because that I saw that. Like when you say it, I see it, and
Yes.
it just made me think of the Abraham Hicks
Yes.
that's talking about dropping the oars and just kind of going downstream and not fighting.
Yes.
That's going through that, which is sometimes what we have to do in relationships. It's just surrender, just like, all right, time out, take a break, take a breather, whatever it's going to take. Just, drop the oars, stop fighting.
Right.
It made me think of that. Yeah.
Right. So then, and that brings to mind the other Abraham pearls of wisdom, like, do I need to be right or do I need to be happy? Now that's one of those questions that truly brings us back to self-love.
Yes.
Right? Is me, pushing the issue that you did this, or I think that, you breached a boundary, whatever it is, and I don't know if you heard me yet. Is it really worth it, to go through that push and the pull and, lighting that fire and keeping that fire burning? Or is it better to just like sit on the side of the campfire and toast some marshmallows?
I'm going to go get the marshmallows right now. You're making me hungry.
Yeah. So you said the words. You said surrender.
Yes.
And it could be surrender. And sometimes I think of it as a shift. We're in that contrast. We're in the disagreement. We're bumping heads. And certainly if we're coming from the energy that began the disagreement, we're not going to solve it from that energy. So what do we do? How do we choose to shift? And of course, the leaf blower man is here. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Now, we had this issue a year ago, and they're still doing it. Wait,
they're still doing it. Don't they know?
I don't know. I think they do know.
Oh gosh.
So it is the surrender. That moment. I mean, I can be in the conflict and have the pain and know that the relationship is important to me, but there's still that part of me that, is just not ready to give it up yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that word surrender, it can have such a powerful effect. It has such a negative connotation to it sometimes because it can be thought of as, well, if I surrender, then I'm giving in, I'm weak, I'm, accepting losing, and so we'll keep resisting and we'll keep, fighting, as you said, fighting to be right, instead of just giving in. And it's not surrendering to the other person, which is the big thing that hangs there. It's not surrendering to the other person or even surrendering to letting them be right and accepting you're wrong or whatever. It's just surrendering to the fact that there is some conflict right now. There's, it got messy right now. Things are not hooking in very comfortably. Something's not flowing easily, and surrender to that. Not surrender to the person or surrender to being right or wrong, but just surrender to, oh, you know what? It's messy right now.
Right.
So that's what I have to accept. And
and it is an acceptance.
Yeah.
It is an acceptance.
Yeah.
Am I gonna exactly. Am I gonna be okay with this? Am I gonna be okay with letting some time pass? And not going into. So I noticed that if we go into anything outside of the right now and what's important right now, that's where it keeps it going, right? Well, I wonder if this means that 3 years from now, this is going to be like tripled if we have this situation again, right? We tend to go there. Or we tend to take it backwards and even hook it into something that doesn't even pertain to the relationship. Maybe something emotional that was uncomfortable in another relationship. So we can bring all this extraneous stuff in and get really, really make it even more complicated.
Yeah. exactly. We get kind of caught up in that web, in the web. It gets really tangled, and the more you try to get out of it, the more it tangles up. Instead of just dropping the darn oars for a little bit, letting go, releasing, time out, put a pin in it, whatever. There's so many little sayings, stepping back.
Yes.
And just kind of accepting, okay, this is not working right now. This is messy. I don't feel good right now.
Right.
I don't know if the other person is feeling good right now, but you know what? I can't be responsible for how they're feeling right now, because I got to take care of me and realize I don't feel good.
Right.
And be able to take a step back. And then, as you said, really process. Give yourself the time and the space to process, how important is this to me? How important is this other person, this other entity to me? Or how important is this issue to me?
And that, right, that question, asking that question is part of the surrender. Or if surrender really makes you feel vulnerable, it's part of the beginning of the shift. It's the beginning of the shift back into, you're taking yourself out of the fray, right, out of the fire, and going, okay, let me just sit back here for a few minutes, figure out what the heck I really, really need.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
I really want. Yeah.
Kind of take, like I said, sit back and kind of take a look at, like, what really went kind of crooked here? What went askew here? What was it that was said or done, or what happened that made this contrast? Yes. Rather than, the defensiveness and the blaming or the guilt or whatever, fighting it, resisting it. Just drop the oars, surrender, trust, know that you're going to get through it somehow, and be okay with taking a step back.
Right. And I mean, and is it the kind of situation where, okay, what do I want? Do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? I want to be happy. So, like, there's this saying, can you give the other person a Twinkie? and
girl, you are Twinkies, marshmallows. I mean,
it's a sweet day. My goodness. It's a sugary kind of day.
Yeah.
But, can I say, okay, we both have our points of view, but I love you enough. I love me enough. I love both of us enough that I want to end this. So, here, have anything that you want. Have what you want. Let me extend my hand, to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's tough sometimes, especially when you're, all worked up, and you're in that place.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, like, if you've taken that moment and tried to step back and thought about, well, what's really the issue here? Is this a big deal? Is this important? Is this something that's going to drive the relationship into the ground, or is going to drive it forward? Or is this just a little blip?
Right.
And so, go ahead, here, have the Twinkie, have the marshmallow. This is not important. Because somewhere down the line, we're going to hit a bigger speed bump, because relationships do. And I want to be able to deal with that one. I want to be able for us to work through that one. So this one, it's not that big of a deal. Have that, let's just agree to disagree. And, and be okay with it. And that doesn't mean that you just, again, surrender, give in, say they're right, or whatever. It's just, or even forget about what the issue was. But it's maybe putting it on hold. And you know how when you're looking for something, you lost something and you're looking for it and you stop looking for it, after a while you find it?
Yes.
So it's kind of that same thing. It's like, this issue is not important enough to fight about. Let's just leave it over there, and it will probably work itself out eventually. It'll work itself back into a conversation or back into a situation, and next thing you know, it's all worked out.
Right. And I think part of what keeps it going is the fear of, well, how is it going to be? After this, how's it going to be? Because, we put a big dent, here's a big dent in the relationship, and, it's never going to be, even if it gets banged out, it's never going to be the same, right? How do we become okay with that? How do we become willing to explore, right, the the newness, that we'll create. Maybe it won't be the same, but maybe it'll be better.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll create something new.
And I think that that how is such a big word. It's, 3 little letters, but such a big word because we get so caught up in that. But that brings it back to you and trusting that whatever it is, it's going to be okay. That whatever it is, you're going to be able to handle it. However the relationship or the situation has shifted or changed, it's going to be okay. You can handle it. You don't need to try to control it. Trusting yourself, back to that relationship with you, knowing that you are strong enough and love yourself enough and are secure enough that whatever comes next, you're going to be okay with it.
Exactly. That's so good. That's so good. And I was imagining before when you said, you just have to drop the oars. And I was thinking, well, how do you trust that you're going to be headed in the right direction? But you said it. It's that trust that you have in the relationship with yourself that frees you to just say, okay, I'm going to pull the oars in and I'm going to float. And I know I'm going to go where I need to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Aw.
Yep.
Let's have marshmallows.
Yeah, Twinkies. I haven't had a Twinkie in decades. I'm going to have to go to the store now. See what you've done.
I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Oh, my goodness. Well, I hope that this brings some sweetness into everybody's life. This was fun.
This was fun.
Lucky number 13.
Yeah. Wonder where we go from here. Drop those oars.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll see you next time for number 14.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.